As confident as FC Basel's Sebastiano Esposito taking the ball away from a teammate and absolutely nailing the free kick, we are sticking it top bins with quite possibly our best interview yet. Season 2, Episode 4, dear listeners, welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. I'm Tommaso, and as always, I'm joined by...
Ruairi. You can follow us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod and on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod. Tommy, how are you today?
I'm super pumped for the interview. So guys, right away, you know that the interviewee is Mr. Eamon Zayed. We couldn't stop him from talking. We were aiming at 45 minutes at first, but then we were just having a great time and the interview kept going. So this is going to be a long episode, but you know us and you know that we're not great at time management. I had a great time. You guys will find out more about this absolute hero very soon. But we also have a lot of other things to talk about, including transfer window deals, the state of Europe's top 5 leagues. Spoiler alert, France is not part of it anymore. But also international break. Rory, how have you been?
I'm good. I'm really excited about the interview. Like you said, it was, honestly, listeners, I think it is the best interview we've had so far. It ran a little over, but it's definitely worth it. Really good interview, really nice guy. What a career, man. I'm excited for our listeners to hear about his story. Definitely.
And towards the end of the episode, don't forget, after Eamon's interview, there is our customary 1 minute to kick off quiz. And Rory is going to test my knowledge about the Italian national team from 2002, I believe, to 2021. Are the questions super hard as always, Rory?
As always. They're only difficult if you don't know the answers, right? I don't know. No, I've tried to make them. I don't think they're too difficult. But as I just said, I know the answers, so maybe they are. Listeners, you need to let us know if we are not making the questions even. I'm aware that maybe one of us makes it harder for the other, but...
Yes, and guys, if Rory starts speaking weird or it just doesn't make sense, we know that that's usual Rory, but he got his second dose of vaccine today and is feeling quite something, right?
Yeah, it's definitely starting to everyone's gone through it, but my arm's aching and I'm currently clutching onto a can of Monster that's going to get me through the rest of this record. Yeah, mate, I'm honestly holding my nose as I drink it, I'll be honest. But, I'm here. And at least it means I'll have no more internet problems if I've got the double vaccine. I'm now up to 5G, so definitely no lag. We'll be all right.
The third dose is going to give you the 6G. But without further ado, I think it's time for our Euroreview. And welcome to our Euroreview, beautiful listeners. We've got a lot of ground to cover, but what could we start with if not the craziest transfer window that any fan has ever witnessed in their lifetime? And of course, I think that Rory Criscuolo needs to issue a quick apology to Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yes, I did accuse him of being a liar. And honestly, I think he had his own back on most people who record podcasts, I think, because the way he switched and changed his mind so quickly meant that by the time we'd released our show, it was already out of date. So yes, I apologize, Ronaldo, but also you kind of got your own back on us, making our show completely redundant instantly. So well done. Good work, mate.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. So as a Premier League fan, how does it feel to have Ronaldo back in the league?
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying, right? I think the listeners are kind of aware of the fact that I'm scared of how good Manchester United are looking and how sensible their signings have been to an extent. With Ronaldo, you know that he's always, people keep saying that he's not the same player, he's not going to make a difference, or he's not going to hit those heights again. I think you can still almost guarantee that he will be among the top goal scorers in the league, if not the top goal scorer. He seems to have done it for every year in Italy, right? It's maybe not the player that Manchester United needed. Their midfield still needs addressing, but you can't deny that having Ronaldo in your team makes it stronger. That is just a fact. I kind of think Man City almost tricked them into signing Ronaldo. I don't know if it was some weird play for Haaland. I've got this conspiracy theory that Man City want Haaland, but they were worried that United would go for Haaland. So they said they wanted to go for Ronaldo. They knew that United, they were never going to let Ronaldo sign for City. So they had to come in and buy him. And now, next summer, United can't afford Haaland and City can get him uncontested. What do you think?
I actually was reading in these days from pretty reliable sources, including Fabrizio Romano, that despite Cristiano Ronaldo, Manchester United are going to make Erling Haaland their top objective in the next transfer window.
Damn.
Yeah,
I was hoping that would rule out the Haaland United bid, I'll be honest.
I don't know. How much money do the Glazers have? Like paying both Cristiano Ronaldo and Haaland and all the rest of the team? Jesus, that sounds like a lot of money.
A lot of United fans will tell you the Glazers don't exactly invest a lot of money into the team, not usually. It's all kind of generated from the club, right? So maybe my conspiracy theory all falls apart. But anyway, ultimately, look, to have Ronaldo back in the Premier League is a great thing. He was fantastic when he was here last time. I think it makes the title race a lot more interesting, or even more interesting. I think it kind of, the teams that we're expecting to challenge anyway were like Chelsea, Manchester City, and now we've got Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United now maybe. I think it puts another horse in that race. So that's only a good thing.
But since we are the Anglo-Italian pod, we also need to analyze the Italian point of view of this situation. And I loved the wording from Cristiano Ronaldo interviewed at the Manchester United microphones. He basically worded it like leaving Juventus was the best decision of my career. And I loved it. I loved all of it. And I think that Cristiano Ronaldo is going to look back at his experience at Juventus and be like, wow, there was one thing that I shouldn't have done in my career. And that was it. Well, he still won goal scorer for 3 consecutive seasons, I believe. He still won the Scudetto. He still won the Coppa Italia. But I mean, he just seems well happy to be away from Juventus. And funnily enough, every Juventus player has shared an Instagram message or Twitter message to wish him good luck, except, do you know this one, Rory?
Is it Dybala?
It's club captain Giorgio Chiellini.
Wow.
He did not say a word. I don't think he's happy about the way Cristiano Ronaldo has treated Juve, but as an Inter fan, I just look at it and giggle, especially because
funny. It is quite funny.
Especially because Juventus, you would never guess, they are fucking struggling in the league and they have 1 point after 2 games. So do you think, Rory, that without Cristiano Ronaldo, Juventus really cannot? Should we expect Juventus to make a push for the title without Ronaldo or not?
My first instinct is no. And to be honest, I wish I'd waited to put my title winning accumulator on a little bit longer, because I put Juventus on there when they had Ronaldo, and now he's left. It looks like that bet has gone to shit already. So thanks again, Ronnie. But no, I think Juventus, no. I watched them against Empoli, and look, freak results happen, but Empoli were really good and Juventus were really, really bad, like really blunt, really ponderous, no real focus, no real focal point. I think that Juventus are going to miss him more than Juventus fans want to admit they're going to miss him.
Right. And since we were talking about United, I wanted to ask you, WTF Donny van de Beek? I don't really understand. You were talking about sensible business from Man United, but I don't really get what's going on with Donny van de Beek. Of course, we saw how great of player he was for Ajax. Then it was quite of a big signing for Manchester United. He hasn't played that many games, and he seems relegated towards the edges of the squad. Is that correct?
Yeah, he cannot get a chance, and I've no idea why. Look, I don't know enough about United in the inner workings of it, but from the outside, it does seem quite a strange situation. He was a player, he was key part of that great Ajax team that got to the Champions League semi-finals, right? He was a key part of that team, really promising player. I kind of get the feeling that he was bought by the owners, not by the manager, and the manager didn't really want him. And now he's kind of, they've almost moved on developing the team already, and he's only been there 2 seasons. They've kind of found other players that fit this system they want more, and now he's kind of lost. I'll tell you what, I'd take him at Arsenal tomorrow. If they want to transfer list him, I would quite happily take him at Arsenal. But it is quite sad to see, because he was a player that I was really excited when I watched him within that Ajax team. I was like, I can't wait to see where this guy goes on, what he achieves, who he goes for, and for him to just become a bench warmer just seems a bit sad. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, as an Inter fan, we have the midfield, we have the players that we need, and Donny van de Beek would be a problem, I think, from the wage point of view, but also from the fact that he would struggle to find room in an already consolidated midfield. But seeing such a young and bright talent relegated to the bench and not being given a chance, I don't know. It's just a little sad. So good luck, Donny. Apparently Everton made a move for him, but United were just like, no, we're not going to sell him. So why not sell or loan the player if you're not going to give them a chance? Please, Oli, if you're listening, give us an answer. But Rory, looking at my notes, I kind of wanted to bring up how much sensible business Chelsea have done over this transfer window. They've gotten rid of the majority of their squad, and you would think that the Lukaku signing would be a big toll on their budget. No, because reality of the fact is that at the end of the transfer market, Chelsea actually have a surplus of 35 million euros. So what do you think of the North Londoners, Rory, and their very sensible market this summer?
South London. They're not North London, South London. But yes.
Sorry about that. That's you I'm talking about. Sorry, I mistook that big time.
They are an incredibly well-run club, and they know how to sell players. They know how to sell their players at good prices. Now, I think they got rid of something like 30, 35 players this summer, which including loans and sales, right? And that means that, as you said, they're kind of in a surplus despite spending and bringing in all these great players. It shows just how well run they are, and how efficient they are. Like, even so, a lot of comparisons that Arsenal fans are making, or a lot of fans are making, are that Chelsea and Arsenal were struggling at the same time last year, right? And Chelsea just went, right, Frank Lampard's not the right guy, bang, gone, right, new manager. Right. And then they go, right, here's the weakness in the team. Bang, addressed it. Good. Right. Whereas Arsenal take 10 years to change anything. And I think this just shows how well run a club they are and how driven they are. And I think there's many owners in the Premier League that aren't great owners. But I think Abramovich, look, you can question his morals, where the money's come from. You can question all of that. But as a club owner, he is incredibly efficient and he is very good. He has only given success to that club. He only wants success for that club, and you can see it out on the pitch. And look, the fact they've brought in Saul, who is an incredible player, and you're not even sure if he's going to fit into the team or where he's going to fit into the team, how often he's going to play. That level of depth they now have in the squad is incredible. And it's kind of, they've gone from last year, obviously winning the Champions League was unexpected, but this year, they kind of look like they could almost be amongst the favourites for the Champions League and amongst the favourites from the league within 6 months. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's very well done business. Also, I have to say it here now. I have a big crush for Chelsea's sporting. Is she the sporting director, Marina something?
Yeah, they're all obsessed with her. She's very, very good at her job. She's very good at her job.
She's very good at her job, and she's just very good-looking woman. All I can say about her, I don't remember her name right now. I believe it's Marina something.
Granovskaya. It's a Russian name. I can't remember.
Yeah. While, Rory, you're pointing out that an interesting... So Liverpool didn't really go on the market this summer, and the big news is that Michael Edwards is leaving the club. What does this mean for the Reds and for all of their supporters, in your opinion?
Well, it's interesting because Michael Edwards has been there for a long time, and he has been credited with, for example, he kind of set up for Klopp to come into the club. Klopp wanted Julian Brandt. He really wanted Julian Brandt, and Michael Edwards managed to convince him to go for Salah instead because it would be a better move, and look how that turned out, right? This guy has kind of been credited with building that team. Now, I'm not sure why he's leaving or where he's going, but it's kind of been confirmed that he is leaving. They've appointed someone else in his place who was like his protege or someone he's been training, so maybe it will be a smooth transition and the identity will remain the same, but what he did for Liverpool is he's turned them from the perennials to world champions, if you know what I mean. He has put in the concrete and the bricks that means that hopefully the next guy can just step in and continue the ID. Look, we'll see how the next guy goes, but for Liverpool fans, I think they were really frustrated in the transfer window that they didn't go out and replace Wijnaldum. I think that
Right.
I can kind of understand the frustration there, but I think Jurgen Klopp thinks that he's got enough players and enough young players there that they can maybe just fill the gaps and kind of, again, prepare for the future. So players like Curtis Jones have just got a new contract. And Harvey Elliott, who is a crazy exciting player. He was on loan at Blackburn in the Championship last year, absolutely tore it up. 17 years old. He started against Chelsea last weekend. And I think Klopp really sees that he can play within that three, and just that the solutions are already at the club and they don't need to spend money needlessly. We know about Liverpool that they only buy what they've sold, right?
Yeah.
And we saw across the summer, it wasn't really a seller's market. So I think I can understand the frustration from Liverpool fans and a little bit of trepidation about when Michael Edwards leaves. But I think, honestly, he's put in the foundations for Liverpool to kind of keep this level going. I hope, because, I like Klopp, even if I'd rather Arsenal were more successful than them. I do like seeing Liverpool challenging again. And
since you said the infamous A word, Arsenal, Rory, the A word is Arsenal, of course.
Yeah.
I didn't make that pun right. But since you said the A word, Rory. So Rory and I have been actually talking off mic about this. So Rory's kind of fed up with some people, Kamal, who are just super pessimistic about the situation at Arsenal. Well, I've been trying. It's not easy, guys, because as soon as you approach Rory talking about Arsenal, he gets all stiff and uptight and defensive and you can see blood in his eyes. You're like, okay, Rory, wouldn't it be good to have a very clear-minded, clear-sighted bit in our podcast where we kind of explain what's going on in Arsenal? So you say that people just can't see Arsenal's strategy, and I am one of them. What is Arsenal's strategy, Rory? I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Again, listeners, you can decide if this is clear-sighted or just completely deluded. But I think there are a million problems at Arsenal, as I have said.
Take a breath, Rory. Take a breath before you start. Come on.
As I have said a million times, there are a million problems at Arsenal. But I think this transfer window, we can't compete financially to go out and spend 100 million on Grealish. Even if we wanted to, he wouldn't come. So I think the strategy that we've done is we're signing players, young players, who have a high ceiling of potential and who potentially have a great sell-on value, right? I think this is the new direction of the club. I like the signings we've made. Obviously, time will tell if they're good, if they're going to be a future Mustafi or if they're going to be a Fabregas, right? Time will tell. But what I like about this is that it's almost regardless of the manager as well. Even if Arteta doesn't last the season, the idea of what they want the team to be is there. Now, we'll see if their idea is good or not, but I think we can see that they're trying to instill a kind of philosophy, and this doesn't depend on the manager. This depends on the people higher up. Now, we can decide who's kind of more competent or not, but I just think, I've seen a lot on Sky Sports of just pundits going, I just can't see the strategy. I can't see it. If you cannot understand the strategy of signing young players in the hope that they'll develop, then I would suggest that analysing football maybe isn't for you, because it's a pretty simple strategy.
Make names, Rory. We want to hear the names.
Right, because Gary Neville, I really respect as a pundit. He's the best pundit out there. But when he's on there saying, I don't understand what the strategy is at Arsenal, you're just doing that for clicks. You're just doing it for clicks, because you know what the strategy is. It's to buy young players and develop them. It's not a difficult strategy. And I think it's something that I'm optimistic about. It's the only thing at Arsenal that I'm optimistic about at the moment. You can tell me if that's clear-sighted. I don't know.
All right. A Polish girl once told me that in our podcast, one thing that was lacking was me and Rory disagreeing. So here we go. I'm going to bring it to you right now. So I'm just going to ask you, spending 50 million pounds for Ben White, if he becomes a great center back, at how much money can you sell him, in your opinion? How much more than 50 million pounds?
Well, Harry Maguire went for 80.
Yeah, but this thing, it's just so this kind of feeds into what I was thinking. You said if Arsenal cannot go for 100 million for Jack Grealish. But this is where sometimes I really can't understand English football. Why don't they just pillage absolutely Serie A? The players cost very little. We saw right now that Paratici is at Tottenham. He was Juventus' sporting director for a long time. He was able to get Romero for 35. And in my opinion, I haven't seen much of Ben White, I would say. But I think that Romero for 35 million is a very good deal. Atletico Madrid got Rodrigo de Paul for 30 million. And that is a huge steal. Sometimes, in my opinion, English teams don't look too much outside of the borders, and they should, because with the money that they have, I think, so this is my point, I think that with the money that Arsenal have, which is not a lot, but it's not too little either, if they just looked abroad, Real Madrid have signed Camavinga for 30 million.
But there's also a quota. There's going to be a quota on the number of homegrown players that you need when Brexit comes in, right? There's going to be a quota on homegrown players. So that is putting a premium on English players. But also, Tommy, we've gone out and done that. We spent 18 million on Tomiyasu from Serie A. We've bought Lokonga from Anderlecht. We've bought like Erdegaard from Real. We've gone out and looked for cheaper players from abroad. That's what we've done. That's exactly what we've done. Yeah, we've not gone and spent 100 million on one player. Now, look, Ben White, before he joined Arsenal, everyone was saying, oh, he's too good for Arsenal. And now he's joined Arsenal, everyone's going, why have Arsenal signed him? So I'm ignoring all the noise around him.
All right.
Like, I think what we've actually done is very good. Like, we had so many holes in the team that needed addressing. The only way that we could make a change quickly is doing it this way. Because we needed new midfielders, new defenders, new attacking midfielders. How can you do that if you're not going to spend 300 million? Like, the only way we could do it is the way we've done it, I think.
I hope the Polish girl...
and the last thought, the success isn't going to be next year. We're not going to be challenging next year. We're not going to be challenging the year after that. That's fine. But we will be challenging again at some point. I think what a lot of pundits are, they're just assuming that we're just going to challenge straight away. And it's like, this is a long-term project. You keep saying it's a long-term project, so give us the long-term to prove it. Like, you can't say one thing and expect instant results. I don't know. I just think is a lot of like hypocrisy going on, whilst we are also terrible and bottom of the league and on -9 goals. I know. Right?
Okay, Rory, don't explode. I hope the Polish girl is happy. By the way, I've never met this Polish girl in my life. We matched on Bumble at some point, and she was like, what do you do? I was like, I don't know, I teach, and then I have a podcast. She was like, can I listen to it? I love football. And I sent her one episode, and she was just like, I feel like you guys don't disagree enough. So there, if you're still listening, I hope you're happy.
It's good to see you got over that. It's good to see you got over that criticism, Tommy, and it's not stuck with you for months.
It was only November last year, so it's fine.
Not bad. Right.
It's fine. But so we started talking a bit about the Serie A. In Serie A, there were a bunch of last-minute transfer market hits, talking about Zaccagni to Lazio for 10 million euros. That was a steal. Cop Miners to Atalanta. Guys, now I'm very excited about this player. I'm going to push at the fantasy football auction next Wednesday to try and get him. Whoa. I think he's going to perfectly fit in the Atalanta team. Junior Messias, Crotone legend from last season, signed with AC Milan together with Bakayoko at the very last transfer day. And then Fiorentina making statements. All of a sudden, they've signed Torreira, Odriozola, and Gonzalez all together. And Keita Balde to Cagliari. So these are the last moves in the Italian transfer window. And I think that Inter Milan, looking in my own backyard, I think Inter Milan did pretty well. So given that Lukaku and Hakimi left, we kind of got a great replacement for Hakimi for only 15 million euros. We got Dzeko for 2 million euros, and that's great too. But I think that the problem is that we didn't go for a goalkeeper. So it's as if everybody knew that had to be the priority for Inter Milan going into the next season. But then all these things happened, smoke in the eyes, people forget, Dumfries here, Dzeko there, Correa there, and then the transfer market is over and you're like, holy shit, we still have Andanovic. Now, mad respect for Andanovic. He's our captain. He's always stuck with the team. He's saved our ass in a bunch of situations in the past. He's a hardcore professional. He won a title finally last year with Inter, his first title of his professional career. Mm-hmm. I'm super happy for him. But Samir, We all know that you're a little old, and sometimes you don't dive, which is what goalkeepers should be doing. So I'm kind of worried about that. Atalanta got Musso from Udinese after they sold Gollini. Musso was a big name for Inter Milan. There are already talks about Inter Milan having a pre-agreement with Ajax's Onana, which I think would be a very good signing. Possibly the best cheapish signing that we could do next year. What do you reckon, Rory?
Yeah, I really rate Onana. I really rate him. I was always surprised that he wasn't bought from Ajax sooner. Obviously, the fact that he's on a drugs ban at the moment is a little bit of a asterisk and cloud over him.
Hero, absolute hero.
it was like the classic excuse of oh, I took my wife's medicine, and nobody will ever know how true that is. But I think the price is 6 million, and for that price, it's definitely worth every penny. It could be an absolute bargain. And yeah, I was just surprised he wasn't bought from Ajax sooner. So, but look, I said to you before we recorded, do you think it's going to be halfway through the season, you're going to look back and go, crap, we really should have replaced our keeper?
I've already gone like that during our second game against Verona.
2 games in.
The goal that Verona scored was Antanovic's mistake. So 2 games in, I was already like, God damn it, guys, the goalkeeper. But our sporting director, Marotta, is somebody who knows his job very fucking well. I trust him. I trust him 100% that we will sign Onana, and I'm crossing my fingers as I say that. But moving away from Italy, where Juventus only signed Locatelli.
Caio Jorge.
He's already broken. He's already injured. Well, then there is the return of Moise Kean. But also, man, Morata, I was looking into, this would be for another pod. We don't have enough time. I was looking at the price tag that they're paying for Morata from Atletico. That is big. There have been
robbing everyone at the moment. Atletico are taking everyone's money.
That's where I was going. But just to wrap up Juventus, there have been ultras protesting outside of the Juventus stadium against the Andrea Agnelli and against the overall management of the team and the stadium. Juventus fans being aware of the fact that they play in a very shitty stadium without atmosphere, and they said something like, in every other stadium there are chants and tifos, and in our stadium there are only champagne glasses, something like that.
It's very Juventus. It doesn't take them much to start moaning, does it? It doesn't take them long.
No, not at all. Good job, Ronaldo. The best decision of your life. But the last point that we wanted to cover before quickly going into international football was Atletico Madrid single-handedly destroying Barcelona. So, Rory, do you want to go for this one? Do you just want to summarize what they've done over the past 2 years to Barcelona?
I saw this explained on Twitter, and it was with that picture of Simeone, where he points at his crotch when Atletico scored. So what did they do? They sold Griezmann to Barcelona for 120 million, then took Suarez off them for free, then won the league, and have now taken Griezmann off them again on loan.
For
and only have to pay
of the
40
price.
million.
Yeah, for 1/3 of the price that they sold him for. Oh my God.
And if they'd have held on, if they'd have done this Griezmann move sooner, maybe Barca could have kept hold of Messi. It is so horrifically bad how honestly, it's like if someone said to you purposefully ruin Barcelona, you could not do it this well. How badly that club has been run is incredible. And Atletico, I'm so glad it's Atletico that are taking advantage of it, not Real. It's Atletico that are being cutthroat and being like, right, they're on the floor, go for the killer blow, take the best player. Right, what else can we do? I feel like, honestly, Atletico to retain the league this year, I think they're coming for it.
Let's go. You know that our pod is Roji Blanco, but I just want to say this thing. It's very interesting how both Real Madrid and Barcelona had the 2 greatest players in the world, Ronaldo and Messi. Atletico Madrid didn't have. They've had prolific strikers, but never that player. And that's the thing that, in my opinion, has meant their success last year, because it comes a moment when you have to get rid of that player. Guess what? Real Madrid got rid of that player at the best time possible. They didn't oppose to it. They were just like, you want to go? Is that all right? Just go. And that was the right time. That was peak Ronaldo. It was that crazy summer, Ronaldo to Juventus, LeBron James to the Los Angeles Lakers. We all remember that. Yeah. But that was the right time. And Real Madrid right now, who are also in not the greatest financial situation ever, they're looking at Barcelona and being like, oh my God, they're going through what we went through years ago, except in a way worse way.
Way worse.
And now,
worse.
right now, man, this Messi thing, like Messi's gone. And for the first time since 2004, there is no Messi in their attack. They've gone from Messi, Suarez, Neymar to Braithwaite, De Jong, and Memphis, which it's not terrible, but again, I think
it's hardly inspiring, is it? And I think the weird thing about the Griezmann move as well is even before he went to Barcelona, everyone was like, "Well, that's not going to work. He's not going to play. Barcelona don't need him. He's not going to work in that system." And guess what? It didn't work, and they paid him far too much, and now he's going back. It's just the whole thing is a complete mess, and I think I just love that it's Atletico that are dealing the killer blow and just taking the piss by taking Griezmann back. It's incredible.
Go Rocky Blanco. But guys, this was it for the transfer window. We're going to quickly jump to international football, where Ronaldo broke the scoring record for an international player last night, scoring a brace against Rory's Ireland. Rory, comments on that one, please.
Ireland was so close to getting the result. They played so well, and then Ronaldo was just Ronaldo. 2 incredible goals. I think he's like possibly the best header of the ball on the planet at the moment. But he shouldn't have been on the pitch because he should have been sent off for slapping the Irish player, even if the Irish player did make a meal of it. And the referee, like I don't think I complain about referees too much on this podcast, but the referee was honestly looking at Ronaldo and following him around like he wanted his shirt at the end of the game. It was a little bit embarrassing. So I think the referee wanted to be the referee on the night that Ronaldo broke the scoring record. And he was. 111 goals at international level is absolutely ridiculous. And the only thing that made me uncomfortable is that it's Ronaldo, and obviously all of the stories that are out at the moment about him makes everything quite tinged, but still an incredible record nonetheless.
Good job, Cristiano. In other news, Kazakhstan, because Rory has many nationalities. At times he supports England, at times Italy, at times Ireland, at times Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan drew to Ukraine last night, 2-2. They went down twice and then equalized at the 93rd minute, I believe, which is pretty big.
Yeah, it's huge. For Kazakhstan, that's incredible. Like, they do not get many points. They do not get many wins at all. And Ukraine are definitely prone to the odd slip-up. And by all accounts, Ukraine should have been 6 or 7-0 up except the Kazakhstan goalkeeper was ridiculously lucky and had the game of his life. But Ukraine scored a winner in the 92nd, and I think Kazakhstan got an equalizer in the 92nd and 30. It was an instant reply and great. Always happy to see Kazakhstan get a point. Like, yes, come on, Eagles.
And talking about other teams that Rory supports, we're recording on a Thursday, as you guys know, and tonight, Italy are going to be chasing that record of 34 games unbeaten. They would match Spain and Brazil, the only teams to have ever done it in their history. They are facing Bulgaria. They've got 9 points in 3 games. Bulgaria have got only 1 in 3. If then, on Sunday, if Italy either win or draw this game, and they either win or draw the game on Sunday against Switzerland, that means that it would be the longest unbeaten streak for a national team in world football. Roberto Mancini, I'm crossing my fingers. As you guys know, we share a hometown, but also it would be great after missing out on a World Cup to just like create this football team that won the Euros against England, in case you guys didn't remember. And now he's challenging for the longest unbeaten streak of all time. So pretty exciting, but also tonight, Hungary versus England. Now, Hungary are no mugs. We've seen it in the European Championship. They've got 7 points in 3 games. England have won them all. Rory, are you going to win this one too?
I think it's going to be a really tough game. I think it's probably going to be a draw. I think we saw Hungary take France We saw them put up a pretty good fight against Germany and put up a really good fight against Portugal until they kind of late collapsed. I think we've seen how difficult they are, and that stadium is going to be rocking and full capacity, no masks, COVID doesn't exist. So it's going to be a crazy, crazy atmosphere. I think it's going to be a tough game for England. The headline is that now Grealish is at Man City, he suddenly starts. It's ridiculous. Now, he did not start a game in the Euros. He moves to City, and now he starts. It's mental, but I think we'll get a draw.
And we're going to cover more international football next week when we will have more results in our hands. But remember that on Sunday, there is also a big South American classic in Brazil versus Argentina. Of course, all of these games are valuable for the qualification to the 2022 Qatar World Cup. This podcast is still against that World Cup, but many Instagram and Twitter accounts who were very against the Super League and brought up also the Qatar World Cup seem to have forgotten about it. We are still standing against it. We'll see if we'll cover it or not come next year. Have you changed your thoughts about that one?
No, not even slightly. I'm still at odds with how we're going to deal with that one. And there was news today that they're going to make World Cups every 2 years, which for someone who loves football, I really hate that idea.
Yeah, it's too much, right?
It's just overplaying. But if we're at the end, are we at the end of the Euroreview? Is that the end of the Euroreview?
Oh my God, Rory is so high on his vaccine. It's not even funny. I can see his eyes are dilated. He's talking nonsense. I think we're at the end.
This is an opportunity to say that we are, of course, the Euroreview sponsored by Sports Club Maps, guys. Please do go out and check their stuff. The sale was last week. You missed it, but go to their website. Perfect for Christmas, presents, birthdays, whatever. Go and check out their stuff. It is incredible. sportsclubmaps.co.uk.
Of course, you can find them also on Twitter and Instagram. They've got mugs, they've got mouse pads, they've got posters, they've got notebooks, they've got agendas with maps of specific countries and the most important sports teams in that nation. So go to their website. They're our official sponsors starting from this year. But Rory, I think it's finally time for the big interview. Are you excited? Any spoiler alerts before we go into it?
I'm so excited. So many names that I did not expect to come up popped up in this interview, and I was excited by every single one.
So, ladies and gentlemen, our customary theme sound for the weekly topic. This time, we are joined by legendary hat-trick scorer Eamon Zayed. Born in Dublin in the fall of 1983, ever since taking his first steps on a football pitch, his talent and the rightfully earned pedigree of a relentless number 9 have taken our guest across the wind-swept pitches of Ireland, the beer-filled stadiums of England, the electric atmospheres of top-flight Iranian football, the faraway shores of Malaysia, and eventually he has landed on the exciting and fast-growing stage of Northern American football. Following a Lewandowski-worthy performance in the Tehran Derby in 2012, he was voted World Footballer of the Week by online magazine Goal.com. Yet, that was only one of the instances in which he made the scoring a hat-trick look like a stroll in the park. Ladies and gentlemen, the Anglo-Italian pod is delighted and thrilled to welcome League of Ireland and League of Ireland Cup winner and the current manager of newborn side Northern Colorado Hailstorm, drumroll, Eamon Zayed. Welcome, Eamon.
Cheers. That's quite the introduction. That was impressive. I enjoyed that.
Hey, I worked on it all day yesterday, and also Rory's here with us today. How are you doing, Rory?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, I am here, present and correct. Good.
Thank you very much for agreeing to come on the pod. Eamon, how are you doing? You're in Colorado right now, correct?
Yeah. Firstly, cheers for having me on. Secondly, I'm in Colorado. Absolutely beautiful, stunning up here. The weather's gorgeous. Can't complain. I've been here about probably 1 to 2 months now. So loving life at the moment, and it's really exciting what we're trying to do up here, you know.
As long as it's not winter, Colorado is a great place to be. But we are going to start our interview with a bit of history of your career, how you started in the world of football. And then, of course, we are going to look at your pro career and at your big move to the United States and the very exciting project that you're working on right now. Being my co-host, half Irish, I assume that the history starts in Dublin. And so, Rory, I will let you go with the first questions.
Beautiful. So, yeah, of course, you started your career in Ireland, but I saw at first you were in the Leicester Youth, the Youth Academy. Is that right? Before getting a move to Bray Wanderers.
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah. And actually, strangely enough, I know we were talking before I jumped on. I actually, when I was 16 years of age, I actually turned down a contract to sign for Arsenal. I got offered a 3-year deal in Arsenal. Liam Brady was head of the academy there, and I went over for about 4 weeks during the summer. And it was literally the year before I finished school, before I finished secondary school. And I went over. I had an unbelievable summer. I mean, I was playing in. I remember the team, I was playing up front with David Bentley.
Oh, wow. Now he's a character, right? That guy.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the team was filled with stars who went on, and Justin Hoyt, Steve Sidwell, Rowan Ricketts,
oh, wow.
Graham Stack in goals, Jermaine Pennant. It was filled with players that went on and had unbelievable careers, and I was playing up top with David Bentley in a couple of games. Actually, decent little partnership that was, because after a few games they offered me a contract.
Wow.
And I ended up turning it down because I had 1 year left in school, and I'll be honest, I was there for 4 weeks. I was a little bit homesick, and I don't know. I mean, it was always something that I kind of look back on and said, kind of like, what if? Because as I said, that team was full of stars that went on, and some of them made it quite big. But look, the year later, I went over to Leicester City. I got my kind of second opportunity to sign a contract over in England, and I went over there as a young kid, full of dreams. And it just obviously didn't work out. I ended up only being over there for a couple of years before I came back to Bray Wanderers.
Well, I just wanted to quickly go back. Obviously, Liam Brady is like a giant in the history of Irish football. How was that at such a young age to be around someone of that stature? And you were, of course, aware of how big a player he was for Ireland, right? Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, look, it was. Obviously, that was exciting and intimidating at the same time. And I remember, again, I'm a young 16-year-old going over to such a big club, and it was great. The Arsenal setup was you train in the morning, and then you'd obviously go in and have lunch, and maybe go out and train again, depending on the schedule. But everybody had lunch together, so I remember, you're sitting at tables, and next to you is Ashley Cole, and I think Martin Keown was there, and Tony Adams, and I remember even at one stage, Arsene Wenger pulled everybody in for a chat, and I don't know how I ended up in the room, but I'm in there, and I can't even remember what he was talking about, but and I should, because it's Arsene Wenger. But no, it was mad. You were just surrounded by absolute superstars. Yeah, that was mind blowing, and I honestly feel like it really brought out probably the best in me in terms of my football. The one thing I remember in training. And there's a big focus on it in this is pre-season in the summer. The coaches really gave you the freedom, and they wanted you to showcase your raw talent and your freedom of play. And I felt like in every kind of session that we done in training, and I felt, I don't know, it just brought out the best in me, and I had a really good 4 weeks there, and great experience.
Yeah, and talking about, I wanted to ask you, so you were at Leicester City, first at Arsenal. You listeners should have looked at Rory's face while Eamon was talking about meeting Arsene Wenger. But I wanted to ask you, what was your feeling at Leicester? Because here at the pod, we love the story of the rise of the Foxes, how they won the title. They won the FA last year. So did you have the impression that it was an extremely well-run club? Was it before they started becoming the Leicester that they are now? What were your overall feelings?
Yeah, when I look back on it, it was a well-run club in terms of the infrastructure, the training facilities and everything like that. But they were going through a kind of a weird period. This was back in early I can't even get my dates right. It was early 2000, 2003, somewhere around that time. And Martin O'Neill had been the coach, and he had done really well with them. They'd done well in the Premier League, and I think I know he got to a cup final. They might have even won an FA Cup under him, but they had some good players. Muzzy Izzet, Robbie Savage,
Neil Lennon, maybe Neil Lennon.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they had some good players. But when I went there, Martin O'Neill had just left, and Peter Taylor was who actually was in charge at the time, and it was his assistant coach who came over to Ireland and saw me playing, which is unusual because usually it's an academy scout or something like that. And he was really impressed. So when I went over to Leicester, I went straight into the reserve team. As a 17-year-old, I skipped the under 17s, 18s, 19s, and went straight into the reserve team, and they really liked me, and I was enjoying it. And then 3 months later, Leicester City were bottom of the Premiership, and they sacked Peter Taylor, and in comes Dave Bassett and Mickey Adams, and I mean, in football, like if you want to make it big, you obviously you need talent, but you really do need a bit of luck, and you need a manager and coach who honestly, the most important thing is somebody who believes in you, and who likes you as a player. And from day one, I just as this, what am I, 17, turning 18? I was training with the first team, and I remember I fell out with Mickey Adams, who was honestly not a great person, a bit of a wanker, if I'm being honest. He really was. I remember, as an 18-year-old, we're playing a five-a-side, kind of, I think it was the weather wasn't great. We were playing indoors, and we were playing like a five-a-side, and you had to hit something behind the goal. And it was like whoever hits it, one team on, one team off. So I hit this behind the goal, and Mickey Adams, he was relatively young, so he was getting involved in training, which, funny enough, a lot of coaches actually in the Premiership, I went over to Newcastle, and Graham Souness was involved in training, and I went over to Everton, and Dave Moyes was involved. They enjoy, obviously they're ex-players, they like playing. But anyway, Mickey Adams was playing, and I hit this thing behind the goal, and he's like, no goal, and I'm like, all right. I didn't say anything. I mean, I hit it. It was like an object behind the goal that you had to hit because it was five-a-side indoor, no goalkeeper. Anyway, I went up and hit the thing again, and he said no goal. And as an 18-year-old, I should have just shut up. I was like, what the fuck do you mean it was no goal? I mean, and I start obviously, heat of the moment. You're in training, you want to win because you have that competitive nature. And he looked at me, didn't say anything. Anyway, a few minutes later, his team go up and score a goal, and he turns around to me and he says, "That's how you score an effing goal." And he had a bag of balls, and he started kicking the balls at me, and I'm only a young 18-year-old, and he started kicking the balls at me one by one. And he says, "You get the fuck out of here." And honestly, that was, when I look back on it, I mean, that was honestly, it was the start of the end, because I didn't train with the first team much after that. Always felt I was walking on eggshells around him because I didn't know how to react. He's the first team coach. And I just didn't enjoy it. And a year and a half later, or a year later, Leicester City actually got relegated. And this was right before big TV money came into England. And I remember all the first team and the junior pros, because I was a junior pro at the time, got called into a room and they said, listen, anybody can leave if they want. Doesn't matter how big, small you are, you can leave, because financially we're accepting bids for anybody. And I got in touch with my agent. Well, it wasn't. Somebody reached out to me from Ireland who was a coach of a team back in Ireland. He was also an agent, and he said, "Eamon, listen, come home. Get out of there. Come home. I'll negotiate some kind of settlement on your remaining 2 years there, and just get out of there." And honestly, that's, I wanted to do that. I just wanted to get out of there because I just felt obviously unwanted, and I was young and kind of disillusioned, and I just wanted to go home and play football again with my friends,
It's mad how, if someone can just take an instant disliking to you, then that's it, you're done. If you know what I mean, it seems like, and obviously it happens in plenty of jobs, but how, when you're 18, how did you deal with that? Did you take it personally, or were you just like, oh, it's that guy, I'll be fine, I'll find somewhere else? No,
honestly, if that had happened, obviously, in my mid to late 20s or, whatever, I would have dealt with it. But at the time, I'm 18 years of age, and, I'm playing for a big Premiership club, and he's a, I wouldn't say he's a big coach, but he's a coach of a Premier League team. And no, I was disillusioned, and I didn't know how to react. Honestly, I didn't. As an 18-year-old, I didn't really deal with it, to be honest. I was more like I probably, I had the attitude like fuck you, like if you don't like me, well then whatever, I don't like you, kind of thing. And that was that. Instead of dealing with it in a better way, and I can look back, and I had a couple of issues with coaches, probably from in my early 20s, let's say, or I went over to Norway for a short spell, and I had an issue with a coach there, and as a player, like I should have dealt with these situations better. But look, as an 18-year-old, you don't know any better. You're just a young kid, and he's the adult, and he's the head coach, and I'd never treat a young player like that ever, not a chance, not in a million years. Even if he pissed me off so much, I still would not, because that's just not the way you treat anybody, let alone an 18-year-old.
Yeah. And right now you're a manager. We'll talk about that later. So you're going to have to deal with 18-year-olds who might get a little bit offended. Make sure that if they hit the object behind the goal, you just say, hit, that's the goal. That's it. But so we kind of have gotten to your start in the League of Ireland, and we wanted to ask you, how was the League of Ireland when you started out in terms of level and facilities, and how do you think it has changed to now?
Yeah, it's changed massively. So when I got into the League of Ireland, it was full of talented players. Like, I mean, really, really, like they were like just some really talented players. And this was kind of like, in Ireland, we had the Celtic Tiger, and financially there was money flowing around the economy, and teams had money to pay players. So facilities were okay. They're much, much better now, but they were okay. Crowds weren't bad. I guess it was full of talented players, but back then it was kind of old school mentality in terms of, so there was not, strength and conditioning wasn't obviously massive. Players would still, go out on the piss for a few drinks straight after the game and continue on for the rest of the weekend. So that kind of professional mentality wasn't there, but there was some super talented players. And it was a good league. It was a great league to be a part of. And I loved it. I was back playing with some of the lads that I grew up playing with for underage teams. I was near my family as well. So, I mean, I was playing with a smile on my face, which was the most important thing, because that just enabled me to just play even better. But it was so I'd say from 2003 to I guess 2011, 2012, I think the standard was really good. There was some really excellent players. And then again, kind of hand in hand with, I guess, the recession in Ireland, it trickled from 2010 onwards. But I'd say 2012 to maybe 2000 for a few years anyway, the standard in the league wasn't great back in Ireland. It just wasn't great. The better players were leaving, going to England or Scotland or wherever they were going, and it wasn't any money to pay these players to try and keep them. But one thing that allowed was there was a bigger emphasis on younger players, and clubs trying to get, I guess, get the academies up and running, which they have done in Ireland. And there's a more emphasis on the coaching side of things, and then the strength and conditioning side of things came on board as well. And I would say, then after those few years from 2012 to 2015, 2016, again, it picked up a lot in Ireland, and there's some really good. When I started, there was an emphasis on, there was like older players, really good old. And when I say older, I mean like, anywhere from 26 to 35. Whereas now in Ireland, there's really good, talented young players. I mean, really good young players. And it's also seen as a league where, especially with the academy, there's an under 15, 17, 19 academy structure in Ireland as well now. And I feel like it's also looked at as a platform for younger players to say, do you know what, I don't need to go to England when I'm 16, 17, 18. I can stay and I can try and get first team football with a team in Ireland and then make it, and then make that jump when I'm ready and when I'm more mature. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding. There's numerous players that have gone on to had good careers, where it's James McLean, Ennis Stevens, Wes Houlihan. There's plenty. Shane Long, Kevin Doyle. I mean, there's loads and loads of players who have gone on from the League of Ireland at a later age. So now, as I said, over the last few years, 5 years, Stephen Kenny went into Dundalk, transformed that club. Shamrock Rovers with Stephen Bradley and the infrastructure that they have, especially with the academy teams. League of Ireland's in a great place right now. And it's seen even in some European results and some of the teams making European qualifying competitions, group stages. It's definitely at a very good point now.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that, and I'm glad you brought up Dundalk. That's actually my mum's hometown team, so I always keep an eye out for them. But I did notice one of the first hat tricks in your career for Bray Wanderers actually came against Dundalk, and it broke the record of the quickest hat trick for a Bray Wanderers player between the 7th and the 15th minute. Now, I was looking at your scoring record. So in 105 games, you scored 54 goals for Bray Wanderers. How did that feel being so young and your first, you finally got an opportunity in football and you're scoring basically every other game? How did that feel?
Look, it felt great. But when I think about my time in Bray Wanderers, and this is the biggest thing, I think, when a player is happy and they feel at home, it doesn't actually have to be their home, but they feel at home at a club or a different country or city, perhaps, they play their best football. And when I was at Bray Wanderers, I was playing with guys who I grew up with. Some of the guys in the team were guys I grew up with, but it was a great group of guys. And, my family got to watch me. My mom was there every game and cheer me on. And it never felt like a job. It just felt like I was going out having fun playing football with my friends. And that's how, at times, obviously football is a job if you're a fully paid professional player, but at the same time, it's obviously you want to win. It's a game. So when you play on a Saturday, Friday night, whatever the case is, for 90 minutes, it's a game. Have fun, go out, enjoy it, and that's what it was. And because of that, I was so loose, especially in front of goal and composed. And that's I guess I had a decent record at Bray.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad record at all. Now, after Bray, before we go to your stint in Iran, where I discovered you was when you came on loan for a brief stint at Crewe Alexandra. Now, I was very excited because it was an Irish striker coming over to Crewe. Obviously, as I've said, and as the listeners are aware, my mum was Irish. I was quite excited. Now, we don't have to spend too long on it, but what happened there? Because it was a very short stint, and then you just went.
So very briefly, so that was, that was a move that I regret, and I'll tell you why. I just finished the Irish Under-20 World Cup. I was with the Irish team. We were playing out in Dubai. I also got called into the Irish Under-21s, and because of that, there was interest from clubs over in England, and I was still contracted to Bray Wanderers. So Everton were interested, so I went over and trained with Everton for the week. Had a really good week, and I played well. And straight after that, this was already scheduled. I was going there for the week, and then I was going up to Crewe Alexandra for the week. So when I went up to Crewe Alexandra again, I had a good week. And I remember at the end of that week, David Moyes rang my, I think it was my coach at Bray Wanderers at the time, and he said, "Look, what's going on with Eamon? How did he get on Crewe? We like him." And my coach said, "Look, he's got on really well at Crewe. They want to offer him a deal." And he said, "Look, I'll be honest. If we bring Eamon into Everton, he's obviously not going to get in. He's not going to break through to the first team right now. I would suggest for him, he go to Crewe Alexandra. It's probably a better move for him, and he'll get game time. So, but we'll keep an eye on him. So, Crewe Alexandra, they wanted to sign me. I think they wanted to sign me on an 18-month or 2.5-year deal, but Bray Wanderers would only allow me go out on loan because they were hoping that I'd go out to Crewe, play really well, and then they could sell me on. So anyway, I went to Crewe. It was a 6-month loan move, and I went in thinking that I was obviously going to get some game time. Dario Gradi was the coach. Again, it comes down to, it was actually the assistant coach who really liked me and probably made the transfer happen. Because when I got in there, Dario Gradi, he didn't like me from day one. He didn't like me.
Right. It's fairly known that he's a difficult character. It was fairly well known.
Yeah. And I could just tell. I could tell he didn't like me as a person or as a player. And I felt, they were in a championship at the time. Mm-hmm. Now, in fairness, they had Dean Ashton playing up front, who was, honestly, he was so good. Like, he was so good, like really good. And obviously he went on and got a move the following year to West Ham. But, I knew I wasn't going to get in ahead of him. But I thought that I could still get some game time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't. Like, I didn't. I was on the bench and I never made one appearance for them. And that and then 6 months later, that was that. And again, that was really disappointing when I think about it, because I was at a point in my career where there was I remember there was two guys same age as me, Kevin Doyle, who was on that under 20 squad, got over to Reading, and Stephen Ward got over to Wolves, I think, or Sunderland. There was players who were getting moves, and I felt I was, at that time, I was doing better things than them. I was scoring more goals than them, and I was playing better than them, and that was just a bad move, and it didn't work out. It didn't work out at all, and that brought me back, because that was a big opportunity to get over to England.
Right. So you've had a very interesting career, and we still have a lot of ground to cover. But in your time in Ireland, after coming back from Crewe Alexandra, you played for Drogheda United, Sporting Fingal, and Derry City. And there you won a League of Ireland with Drogheda United and the League of Ireland Cup with Derry City. Very quickly, what memories do you have about these great accomplishments? And I always think, to be Irish in this case and to win the League of Ireland and the League of Ireland Cup, was it a particularly satisfactory feeling for you?
Yeah, it was great memories. So Drogheda United, I had a great time there, but that felt like, especially with the coach at the time, a guy called Paul Doolan, that felt like a job, and he would actually hammer it home in training, like, this is a job, you're getting paid for this. So I was there for 2.5 years. We won a league title, which was great. It was the first league title for Drogheda. And we had a really good team, the best team in Ireland. It was a really good team, really good squad. I got to represent them in Europe, and from a professional standpoint, it was a good time. But there was moments where I didn't enjoy it. Obviously, you enjoy when you're winning, but there was moments where I didn't enjoy it. Just because of the atmosphere that the coach created. But again, successful time, loved it. Great fan base, great people in Drogheda. Derry City was probably my favorite year, because I was playing with what I believe is the best manager I've ever played with. A guy called Stephen Kenny, who's obviously the Irish national team manager right now. Nice. And, it was just a year where I guess everything came together in terms of just me as a player, as an individual. I loved it. I mean, I loved the city. Derry City's it's a working class city, great people. Obviously, there's a lot of history there, where, because I guess Derry's technically part of the UK, but no, great people. Great team. I mean, there was some great players playing in that team as well. And Stephen Kenny as a coach, just he gave you the freedom to go out and play and express yourself, especially as an attacking player. So that was my favorite year when I look back playing in Ireland, playing with Derry City. And you asked me about, I guess, achievements. Yeah, that was when I went to Derry City. There was a couple of things that I wanted to do. One, I wanted to prove that I wanted to be top goal scorer in the league. It was an individual award, but I had never won it. I'd score goals, but I'd never won it. So I wanted that. And I got that at Derry City. There was a League Cup that I had won every other title in Ireland and individual award prior to that year, except for the League Cup, Player of the Year, and top goal scorer. And I got that at Derry City. They were the three. I know two of them were individual, but I wanted them. It wasn't to say, look at me, I'm great. It was just a chip on my shoulder, prove people wrong. And then the League Cup was obviously the FAI Cup is the bigger cup, which I won with Sporting Fingal, but the League Cup is still the one that I just hadn't won yet. So I completed everything. So when 2011 finished in Derry, I had won everything I wanted to do in Ireland, and that allowed me, from a mental standpoint, move on.
That's incredible. I think because sometimes people say, like you said, football's not an individual sport, and sometimes they look down on like people who chase individual awards. But it's still, as with anything, it's important to have personal targets that you want to meet and you want to reach, right? But sorry, I wanted to quickly go back very quickly to Stephen Kenny, because he's obviously getting a lot of pressure with Ireland at the moment. And of course, he did an incredible job at Dundalk. How good a manager is this guy? I can see what he's trying to do. Do you think he'll get there with Ireland?
He will if he's given time, which I believe he will be. Stephen Kenny, as I said, he's the best manager I've ever played with. And I played with, a couple of decent international managers with the Libyan national team. I played with, obviously one of the most famous Turkish managers over in Iran, and other managers around the world. But he has the ability to, he's a great man manager, and he's the ability to bring out the best in his players, to see the best in them and then bring it out. And that's a trait that not all managers have. I think Stephen is, he's not the best coach, but he, in terms of on the field training, but his knowledge of the game, his analysis, his tactical know-how, I mean, it's spot on. I mean, he's as good as anybody. But it's really the ability to bring out the best in the players. And, obviously as a leader and as a manager, you have an idea and you need your team to buy into it. And he done that at Dundalk. Absolutely, 100%. Everybody bought into it, and he became the most successful manager ever in Ireland. I think with the Irish national team, he's probably going through a bit of an odd phase, because it's probably at the moment the weakest in my generation of a set of players. And that's for numerous reasons that are available to him, but we have some really good, talented young players, and Stephen is unbelievable with young players and bringing out the best in young players and giving them that confidence. And I have no doubt that in a few years, if he's given time, which I hope he will, and some of these younger players mature, I think it's going to be really, really good for the nation and really exciting.
I hope so. There was encouraging signs against Portugal last night anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the goalkeeper's 19. The centre-back made his debut 19. Really, really encouraging signs. And I would just encourage Irish fans not to really look at the results right now, because that's just the phase that we're in. But trust the process, especially the underage process, and in Stephen Kenny. And in a couple of years, you will absolutely see the benefits.
So after Derry City, you made a big, big move away from the old continent, and you went all the way to Iran. And we were just talking about managers, but also personal accomplishments. And we have to mention this name because his record was overtaken last night in the game against Ireland by Cristiano Ronaldo. You were coached when you played for Persepolis by Ali Day. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Nope.
Ali Daei is a club legend.
Wikipedia lied. Damn it.
Yeah, no, Ali Daei was the.
God damn it! At least I nailed the introduction for the guest, right?
Ali Daei is a legend, and yeah, you're right. I mean, he was top goal scorer in international football. I mean, prior to recently, legend, and he was heavily involved in Persepolis. But he ended up taking over as coach a couple of years after I left. But the coach I had was a guy called Mustafa Denizli, who honestly he's the first Turkish coach to ever win 3 national league titles in Turkey with Fenerbahce, Besiktas, and Galatasaray.
Wow!
Holy crap! Wow!
Yeah, and he coached Turkey at a World Cup as well. So he from a managerial standpoint, he's much more highly qualified than Ali Daei.
Yeah.
But maybe not from a goal scoring point of view, right?
No, legend. Ali Daei is a legend in terms of goals.
But I was intrigued. How did the move to Iran come around, and what made you decide to make that move? Because I know Persepolis are a massive club in Iran, right? The support is huge. But how did that move come around? How was it when you got there?
The move came on the back of my time with Derry City, because I was top goal scorer and player of the year. I mean, it's an individual accolade, but that's really why, it's funny how I guess some scouts and agents work, and that's a whole nother conversation. But literally, a scout over in Iran was looking elsewhere for players, and he obviously Ireland came up and he saw top goal scorer, player of the year. He didn't know anything about me. That's what he saw. He saw those headlines and he thought, I'll get in touch with him. And, somebody had got in touch with me at the end of that season. Obviously, this is November, December time. So mid-season break in Iran. And they asked me, would you like to go to Iran? And I was I laughed it off going, yeah, good one. You're joking. And I didn't think anything of it for a week or two. And again, another story, but I went over to Brunei on a trial for a week, and I think I went to Qatar with the Libyan national team to play a few games, and the agent gets back in touch with me a couple of weeks after his initial approach and said, no, really, would you like to go to Iran? It's till the end of the year, and it's just going to be a short-term package. This is what you're going to be getting financially every month. Would you consider it? And I said, I was like, so I get on Google and look at Iran, and obviously I see how big the obviously football is. It's massive. I saw how big Persepolis is, but as a nation, I didn't really know anything about it except for you put on Google and you read Iran and nuclear bombs and all this kind of bad stuff. Because that's what you see in the internet. So one thing though that I did see, there was an Irish embassy. So I rang the Irish embassy, who were based in Iran at the time, and they put my mind at ease. They said, Eamon, honestly, you'll love the football. Like they're avid supporters. They're like, you'll love the football. People are absolutely lovely over here, friendly. Forget what you read, do it. You won't regret it. And I said, why not? It was honestly, even when I went over to Iran and they put the contract in front of me, I was so close to not signing it. But really? Honestly, I was so close to not signing it because I was honestly did not know what to think. I'm so glad I did. Because it was an unbelievable experience. It was life-changing.
And we put up on our Instagram stories, we put up a post for our listeners to tell them, like, is there anything you would like to ask Eamon? Man, you've got so many messages from Iran. Questions like, will you ever come back to Persepolis? Then we've got just hearts, love, and followed by a lot of hearts. Zayed hat-trick, somebody's writing. Somebody else is sending you a rose, a heart, and saying Persepolis 10-10-3. So safe to say that you've become a legend in Tehran. Can you tell us a bit more about that and that specific story?
Yeah, I can. Again, I don't know how long we have in this podcast because I can go on and on.
Don't worry about it.
At this point, just go for it, man.
What an experience. Like when I went over, as I said, I didn't know what to expect. And I've told the story many times, but you got to say, I was I got over there after their mid-season break, the 1st of January, and the coach didn't know who the hell I was because he hadn't signed me as the president of the team, and literally he said, look, I'll have a look at you in training and we'll go from there because I don't know what you're like. As I said, they signed me off the basis that I was top goal scorer in Ireland and player of the year. So a couple of weeks go by, and I'm not the best trainer. I'm not the worst trainer. Right. I'm not the worst. I'm not the best. I'm not somebody. Some people come in and they just stand out in training. Mm-hmm. I don't. I just get by. And then when it comes to finishing at the end of the session, I absolutely love finishing, and I think I look good in terms of finishing. But a couple of weeks go by, and we're at the end of January, and the coach rings my agent and he rings the president and he says, I don't want this guy. I'm not going to play him. I've seen enough. And it was at this point where the president of the team said, no, look, you're going to give him at least one chance. Because results, to be fair, hadn't been going particularly well. They'd been going, again, average. So look, it was, I got my chance in the big derby. And, at the time I didn't know what. I obviously I know what a derby is. And, Liverpool, Everton or Celtic Rangers. And obviously they're massive games. I didn't know how big it was. So, I'm there cruising on the bus, chilling, listening to my music, and everybody is kind of really uptight. And I could see the players were they look frightened, and get into the stadium. It's 90,000 people. And I'm buzzing. I'm thinking, this is great. Look at this. And just kind of listening to my music. And I remember even at halftime, we were 1-0 down at halftime, and it was freezing back in February. It was so cold. And I went in and grabbed a cup of tea. And I literally grabbed a cup of tea and was just sitting there, and the coach was going mad at the players, and it was it was so bizarre. The lights, it's so weird. Honestly, the lights went out in the stadium for about 10 minutes, and they went out in the dressing room. So I'm sitting there in the corner, pitch dark, having a cup of tea. The coach is speaking, Turkish or Persian, translated to Persian, and I'm going, what's going on here? Where am I? And next thing, all I hear is Eamon, and I'm like, what? Shit, what? And the translator, because he had a translator, the coach comes up to me and says, Eamon, warm up. So I go out, warm up at halftime. Again, it's honestly, I wish I had pictures because it was beautiful. Think of a stadium, 90,000 people, electricity goes out, so everybody's just using their mobile phones.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, and it was enough light to obviously see the pitch. So I'm warming up on the pitch going, this is like, I mean, what an experience. I'm never going to forget this. And then, the game kicks off and I'm still warming up on the sideline and we go 2-0 down. I think it was around the 60th minute or something like that the coach says, come on, you're coming on. And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that he felt the game was finished. We were playing against Esteghlal, who were top of the league at the time. We were like 9th or something. And he thought, look, the president wants me to play this guy. Well, there you are. Look, go on. All the best. I'll go out and play in the derby. And I've no doubt we did. And I know that because I came on the 60th minute and the 70 something, I don't know, 70th minute, we got a player sent off. And, we were down to 10 men. And like, honestly, like, yeah, there's videos that show it. Like, and I was very close to the doctor who spoke very good English. The coach making a substitution. He was taking me off. Like I was coming off. I had just been on the pitch 15 minutes. He was taking me off because we had obviously down to 10 men and he was taking a forward off and going down to 4-4-1. And that's when I scored the first goal. And obviously he's like, hey, whoever that was, I remember Adamaki goes, yeah, sit down, you. And again, in Turkish or Persian, whatever, he spoke at the time. And then, yeah, look, it was all a blur. I mean, like in 10 minutes, 2 more goals come in. And yeah.
So wait a second. I'll stop you very quickly because this is one question that we wanted to ask you. Like, one thing that stands out about your resume is the amount of hat-tricks you've scored. So we wanted to know one thing. We're not footballers. We just wanted to ask you, so when you score a hat-trick, can you feel it? Like, after you score the first goal, can you like feel that something is in the air? Like, were you aware that 2 more goals were coming that day?
No. Like, well, I can talk about in general, and then that day. In general, like when a player like scores 2 goals, for me anyway, I loved goals. Like I loved scoring goals. Whenever I got the 2 goals, I always thought about the hat trick, scoring the 3rd goal. And most of the time, it just wouldn't happen. But you always, as soon as I got a 2nd goal, and if there's time left in the game, I always thought about the 3rd goal. Now in that game, I didn't because the first goal went in, and then when the 2nd goal went in, we were down to 10 men. I was thinking 2-2. This is great. Let's keep the ball. And again, I'll tell you a funny story. But so the coach spoke Turkish, and he had a translator that was literally a shadow who spoke Persian. So we got for the 3rd goal. It's the 90th minute, and 2-2 down to 10 men. It was like keep the ball in the corner, and we get a throw, and you'll see it on video. Our left back's about to throw it infield, and the coach shouts something to him, and he looks over, and it's kind of lost in translation, but it's clear the coach is saying, get the ball in the corner, right?
Right.
So he does throw the ball in the corner, but for whatever reason, and with the idea that we're going to keep it in the corner, but for whatever reason, the player who got it, a tricky kind of left winger player, instead of keeping it, he kind of tricked his way past the defender, and it opened up for a cross. And as I said, I'm sure the coach was like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing crossing the ball? Like, because there's me in the box and 4 defenders. But look, yeah, it came to me. And at that, I wasn't thinking of the 3rd goal because I was just thinking I'm a hero at 2 goals. So no, when the 3rd goal went in again, it's a blur. And it was, unbelievable. Yeah.
Mate, well, that's an incredible story. Sorry, Rory.
No, it is. It's insane. And it must be nice to see that even now, like the fans from Persepolis still like remember that hat trick. And I can feel my phone still going off with messages coming to Instagram from listeners, right? So is that a club now that's like really close to your heart, I imagine? Yeah, absolutely. Because look, football in England is obviously massive. Football in a lot of parts of the world is massive. But in the countries like Iran, where they don't have there's not a lot of other sports to compete with, so soccer is by far the biggest sport over there. Also just in terms of entertainment, in terms of bars and clubs and all that kind of stuff, there obviously that's illegal over there.
people still do it in the privacy of their own home, but it's illegal. So football is like an escape. I'm not going to call Iran a third world country, but it's like an escape from other things that are going on in their life. So because of that, like, they're absolutely fanatical about it, and I love that. Like, I loved how, like, you saw, like, their energy gave me energy. You feed off, and I'm definitely a player that feeds off other people's energy. So the bigger the crowd, the better I felt. So I loved it, and the people were really genuinely, like, I mean, they're so friendly, like, they're really nice. And they're really interested in you as a foreigner, as an international, and your culture. And it honestly, it absolutely opened my eyes up massively to, how people, you read the news and stuff like that. And a lot of the time it's bullshit. Like, and that you need to get over and experience it and see it. And, that's not a representation of the people in Iran, whatever. Like, when you're reading some things about nuclear bombs or the government over there or blah, 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 whatever. That's okay. That's a small, a very 1% or less than 1%. I mean, 99% of the people over there are absolutely like really nice people and friendly. And I did, obviously, like anything, like, when you score goals for a club, and people accept you, especially as a foreigner, and they make you feel welcome and make you feel like at home, you have that connection. And, and again, I felt good. And, I don't want to, I'm not saying anything, but I ended up getting 2 hat-tricks, like, after that hat-trick. So, no, but it was because I felt good and I was happy, and I have that connection. I'll always have that connection with Iran.
And before we move on to the United States, which was the end of your career, we've got a question that seems particularly fitting right now from @Mr. Datis on Instagram. I'm assuming he's a Persepolis fan, and he's asking you, what's your opinion about this new look Persepolis after Branco?
Yeah, so when I was there, Persepolis is the biggest team in Iran, but when I was there, they were going through a bit of a weird period, not really challenging for the titles or anything like that. And then Branko Ivanovic came in, and really, like, a great coach. And again, I wasn't there. I wish I was there when he was there, because he transformed the team and got them obviously winning again, and now they're dominating over there. And he left. I don't even want to pronounce his last name. Ali Reza came in. But he's done really well, and they're flying. The results haven't changed. They're still dominating. So no, they're a really good team, exciting team, and I mean they're dominating right now. So it's hard to complain.
Yeah.
Any faults,
Beautiful. So before you go to the US, you do have a very quick stint in Malaysia. Was that another kind of adventure? How did it feel to go to, again, another country that I think people forget how passionately people feel about football in Malaysia? I think the games also there are very well supported, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Soccer's massive in Malaysia, and I think that's why you see a lot of Premiership clubs and top European clubs trying to delve into that market and play preseason games over towards Asia. So no, football's massive in Asia. That came about. It's funny again how football works. And it's all connected. I told you, like, in between Derry City and signing for Iran, I went over to Brunei for a week. And there was an Irish guy over there, a guy called George O'Callaghan, who was actually playing for the team. So fast forward 2015, he actually ended up taking over a team in Malaysia, in the Borneo Islands, a place called Sabah. And not far from Brunei, where he actually was playing, where I had met him. And I obviously left a good impression on him as a person and as a player, that he rang me up and said, hey, listen, do you fancy coming over to Malaysia? He says, I remember when you came over for the week in Brunei, obviously we got on, and I liked your style and how you were as a person and your attitude. And I'd like to have you over here if you're interested. And I said, why not? I said, another adventure, something different. Yeah. I always wanted to go over to Asia and travel around and see it and experience a different culture. So yeah, I loved it. It was good. It was good. Standard is not great.
Right.
That's a struggle. If I'm being honest, every team can have 4 foreign players, and in Malaysia they expect the foreign players to produce miracles.
Right. Okay.
Honestly, they do. Like, I mean, and it's It's
especially the ones with your reputation. Like, why would you sign Eamon Zayed if you're not expecting a hat trick in the dying minutes of your home derby, right?
Well, I wouldn't mind. But like, yeah, they had Eamon Zayed, but they had El Hadj Diouf, they had Abdullah Faye. I mean, they were like massive players. Yeah, no, like, and they were two of the other foreigners. So, I mean, I would like, but no, they honestly expect miracles. So, like, and this is so. The first 3 games, we won 2 and drew 1. I got a couple of assists in both games, or in 2 of the games, but I hadn't scored yet. And after the second game, we had won the first 2 games. The owner of the team pulls me, a Chinese businessman, and he said, "Yeah, you haven't scored yet." And I'm laughing it off, thinking it's a joke. And I'm going, "Yeah, I haven't scored, but like we've won, and obviously, a couple of assists or whatever." And he goes, "No, like, are you like, are you okay? You feeling okay? Like, when are you going to score?" And I'm thinking, "What? We only played 2 games." And like, he was deadly serious. He was not happy that I had not scored, even though we had won. So that blew my mind. And the 4th game, we played in front of a regular about 20,000 fans over in Malaysia, and there was a group of fans, like our ultras, a couple of thousand people behind one goal. And I remember in the 4th game, they had a massive sign. And I'm looking at this when I'm going out to warm up. A massive sign, a tifo, that said, "Score Zayed or go home." And we're looking at then.
What the fuck?
We played 3 games, 1-2, drew 1. And I'm thinking, what? Is this, what's going on here? So, luckily for me, I scored in that game. I ended up scoring 6 on the bounce, 6 games straight. I scored. I think I got 7 goals in that 7 games, and it wasn't like, "Oh, well done, Eamon." It was like, "Yeah, that's what we expect."
Oh wow!
And it was like, it just they expect miracles from foreigners. I mean, proper miracles. And great year, great experience. But I'll be honest, 1 year was enough for me there.
I can kind of understand why. I think, quickly before we go to the US, just your thoughts on El Hadj Diouf, because I know people who've worked with him and bonkers. Okay, right, that's fine.
No, I mean, he's a character, but he's larger than life, and he's again, I have a few stories that I can't tell online. Honestly, and some of them would honestly blow your mind. But as a player, it was great. As we played 2 up top, I was number 9, he was number 10, and he didn't have the legs, but he still had the ability, and especially in Malaysia, because the standard was not great. I mean, I made any kind of run, and I didn't even have to look at him. I just made a run and hit 5 my feet.
Wow.
I got 11 goals that year, and I'd say 7 of them were definitely assists from him. I mean, he was a frightening ability, but look, he came to Malaysia when he just honestly didn't give a fuck about football anymore.
Are you still in touch with him? Are you still in touch with him?
No, I'm not. And I have a story that I just can't say online, but why I'm not in touch with him.
We can wait until we stop recording. Don't worry.
No, he's nuts. I'll tell you what. I had a great relationship with him for 90% of the time there. I did, because we were a foreigner. He liked it. He's very flamboyant, liked to have fun off the pitch, and again, larger than life character, and he was funny, good banter, and I enjoyed a lot of it. But certain things you're just like, mate, like what? Like you're I can see why he had so many issues in his career.
I was going to use you as our middleman to get him to come on the pod,
God,
but I guess we'll have to look elsewhere.
Yeah, you wouldn't want him to be on the show. Well, you would actually. Well, I mean, some of the stories that he has. But anyway, he's mental.
That's awesome. But then from Iran to Malaysia and then to the United States, where you got to play for the Indy 11 and you got to produce yet another miracle, also known as the miracle of the mic. American listeners, go look that up. It's another hat-trick story, which meant a title for the Indy 11. Then you went to the Charlotte Independence, then to the Chattanooga Red Wolves, and hear about the state of football in the United States of America. We had actually an episode last year. If listeners want to look back at it, it was episode 38 with some of our American friends. We called the episode the American Soccer Renaissance. So right now you're managing a newborn team. You've played also in the US. Can you tell us a bit more about the pyramid of US football? Because for us Europeans, it's quite complicated to understand. And then just about how actually exciting it is to be in this super fast growing environment such as American football.
Yeah. Honestly, again, it's hard to be here for hours trying to explain the pyramid and how soccer works over here. We'll call it soccer now that we're talking about America. How it works. It's bizarre. It's different. It's not what I was used to. I mean, look, this sums it up. When I came over to America in 2016 to play for Indy 11, we played in the NASL, which was the oldest league in America. I mean, 2 years later, that no longer exists. There is no NASL. So what you have in America is you have the MLS, which is everybody knows the MLS, Major League Soccer. That's a monopoly. That's out on its own. It's effectively a first division, no relegation, no promotion. You literally bid and pay money to try and get into that league, which goes against most people's ideals and soccer being competitive and competitively getting into the top league. Well, look, you have Major League Soccer. That's what everybody knows. It's the glamour show of American soccer. And then you have the United Soccer League, the USL. And that's where I'm coaching now, and that's where I've played in for the last couple of years. And I really like what they're trying to do. So the United Soccer League, USL has a USL Championship and has USL League One. Now at the moment there's no promotion relegation, but they are looking into that, and hopefully they'll have that in a few years, because I think that will put it up against the MLS, and will make people decide what is better. But it's a growing league, really, really growing. There's how many teams? There's close to 60 teams involved, or 50 teams involved between the two leagues. And obviously America's massive. It's massive. So they split it into, the USL Championship is split into a Western Conference and an Eastern Conference, and then they come and play playoffs at the end of the year, because it's America and they like to have playoffs. And again, then you have the USL League One, which I'm going to coach in, which is for me the most exciting, fastest growing league in America. And is obviously the team I'm with now, Northern Colorado Hailstorm FC, are starting next year. They're going to be jumping into that league because it's so exciting. So it's hard to explain into words how it is, but that's literally you have MLS and then you have USL, right? There's another league called NISA that came in this year, but I'm not going to talk about them now because again it just overcomplicates things. The two leagues that you need to know are the MLS and the USL. And one thing I'll say is that obviously in America, people think you have American football and you have baseball and you have basketball. Since I've been here, soccer has absolutely grown massively. It's the biggest sport in terms that's being played with young kids nowadays. So
it's the Eamon Zayed effect, I think. Since you came to the US, it just went up like that.
I mean, I don't want to take credit for it, but maybe it's the young kids looking at those hat tricks saying, "Hey, I want to do that one day." But no, it's really, honestly, it's grown so quick, so rapidly in America, all over. I coached young kids, girls and boys. Obviously, the girls' national team are phenomenal, the best team in the world, and it's probably the best league for women in the world. I mean, it is not probably, it is. Yeah. But it's honestly, it's growing rapidly, and I think it's going to culminate. It's going to continue growing, but then the 2026 World Cup is going to be in America, and I think you're really going to see a peak of people playing soccer, and I think soccer is going to outpace definitely baseball and kind of. I don't know if we'll ever get to American football and basketball, but it'll be close. It'll be close.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I was kind of doing my research about the USL, the Championship and League One. I find it really nice that they're kind of trying to build the lower leagues. Like when we've seen in Europe that the focus is kind of going away from the lower leagues. I liked that in America they're realizing the importance of having the local teams and the kind of the support of local communities. Now, the team that you spent I think most of your time at in America was the Indy 11. Yeah. And this is where you had the miracle of the mic. So for our listeners, do you want to explain to us what happened here? And again, how did it feel to kind of have this huge moment?
Yeah, so basically Indy 11 had they, I think 2014 they came into play. And, for the first couple of years, they were a brand new team, great fan base, the best fan base in the NASL and probably USL right now. Great community. They love their sports there. But they had no success on the pitch. And that's fair enough because they'd only been around for 3 years when I came on board. But I joined 2016 and there was a big enough change of players. I think there was 10 to 15 players that they brought in. They hired a new coach and the expectations were that we wanted to do something. We didn't want to he brought in winners. He brought in players that wanted to win. And that's important. It's easier said than done. A lot of players are just happy to be professional players. And whatever, let's just play, and whether we finish 6th or 10th or whatever, it doesn't matter. The players he brought in were winners and we wanted to win and do well. So literally the game, we were neck and neck with New York Cosmos for a championship. And New York Cosmos played, I don't know if it was the night before our game, but they played before us. And they were 3 points ahead of us. And our head-to-head was, I think our head-to-head was better. Yeah, because we had beaten them. But that was like the fourth factor. It goes obviously points first, and then I think it goes to goals against, or goals for, goals against, and then head-to-head. So for us to match everything that they had, we obviously had to win our game against North Carolina Railhawks we were playing. We had to win our game. We also had to win our game by 3 goals. And then that would put it to the 4th differential of the head-to-head, which we were better than them on. So, look, leading up to the game, that's something that I do. I remember so much because we knew what we had to do. We knew we had to win by 3 goals. So, we hadn't scored over 2 goals in the game all season. And we were playing against a team that were a good team. We weren't playing against a team that were like bottom of the league. Like North Carolina were a good team, with good players. So to beat them is a great result, but to beat them by 3, I mean, nobody obviously thought we were going to do it. Again, why it's called Miracle at the Mic. I mean, I'm sure our fans didn't even think we were going to do it. And a funny story, which I love to hear, because I just love to hear. The night of the game, the New York Cosmos, the team, they had a watch party, a celebration party. They were watching our game, champagne on ice. Like they were having a night out, like pre-celebrating, and it was just to confirm they were just watching our game. But they had booked out a room, everything. This was all set for them. And yeah, look, I scored 1. First half, then it was 1-1, and I think an important part of that game was we scored on literally right before the end of the first half. We scored to put us 2-1 up, and I remember all week it was funny. I don't know. Sometimes things happen and things are meant to be. Me and a couple of the players that I was really close to, that was closest on the team, an Irish guy called Colin Falvey, who's our captain. We kind of joked about 4-1. We knew we'd concede because we had to go out all out attack. But we thought, right, 4-1 is a realistic. We might concede 1, but if we're going to score by 3, we have to score 3. But I think 4-1 was more realistic than 5-2 or 3-0. So yeah, look, second half, I scored another one to put us 3-1 up, and again we're pushing and the crowd are behind us, and we really did feel the crowd behind us going into the last 10 minutes of the game. And I think it was the 86th minute. I scored the 4th goal, and obviously my 3rd goal, and I know it was unbelievable. Like to bring to bring a title to obviously to clinch it off New York Cosmos was even better.
They're a huge team, right? Like the name is huge, right? The name is huge.
And they had some good players. And
please tell me you flew to New York and crashed the watch party.
we had a great celebration of ourselves. But no, I mean, I was when I heard that, I was laughing to myself that we were, I was delighted. But no, it was great. The fans loved it, and it was great to be able to bring a championship to the city. And I mean, look, we're in 2021 now, and it's still the only championship India have ever won. So it was a proud moment, and that was my favorite kind of playing moment in America so far.
Nice.
So before we go to our listeners' last questions and to our customary questions, like the best player you've ever played with, start thinking about it. We kind of wanted to ask you, how does it feel to be not really, so you are going to be the manager, but at the same time, you're helping assemble the team. So is it a bit of a football manager experience, we could say? Rory over here is obsessed with football manager.
I play a lot of Football Manager, right? And I like to do the create a club. And it seems difficult on that game. So I'm actually intrigued as to just how difficult what have you had to, like, what are the things you didn't expect to have to do, and just how wide-ranging is the job that you're in?
So I guess my title over here, it's they don't call it manager, they call it head coach. It's the same thing. Soccer, football, same thing. But head coach and technical director. So I'm obviously tasked with all the duties that a normal manager or head coach would do, but then it's a brand new club. So from the technical director standpoint, I'm assembling the squad, and also, wow, I guess, negotiating contracts, and putting the technical staff together. And for me, it's a challenge that is really, really exciting, and one that really appealed to me. I actually rather this than going into an already established team and already having, I don't know, like 20 odd players in the books, and having to kind of chop and change and get players off the books and bring some in, and then as well with the technical staff, I get to build everything from scratch. So it's a lot of work, but it's work that I'm going to really enjoy doing. And a little bit of I mean, I played Football Manager in the past as well. That's great fun. And you go out and you sign Ronaldo, and there you are. Like, you've worked I mean, it's not as easy as that. And especially now, with budgets and all that kind of stuff involved. And no, it's great. It's enjoyable, and recruitment is going to be massive. It's the biggest thing in, ask any coach, recruitment. You're going to live and die by your recruitment. Sometimes it doesn't even matter if you're a good coach or not. If you get the good players in, that's most of the battle already won. So, it's great. It's great. I love the challenge of being able to build a whole squad. Have players in mind. Most seasons in America, back home in Ireland, and elsewhere further afield, Italy, England, they're all still playing. So I get to look at games and really kind of have an eye on players that I'm interested in, because I'm obviously preparing for 2022.
That's awesome. And if you want, for our listeners, but for you as well, Eamon, if you're interested, last year in our episode 23, we interviewed actually Dundalk manager Filippo Giovagnoli, and it was his first coaching job. He also had a long experience in the US, and we talk about Irish football. So it really seems like down your alley as well. But so we've got time now for a few questions from our followers on Instagram. And the first one that I have for you is James Cleffy your best mate or only your best sports psychologist?
Oh, James himself. James is a great guy. I done my UEFA license with James. Look, I learned a lot from him from a different standpoint. He obviously he's big into psychology. I mean, that's his career, that's his profession. So, obviously, there's a lot more to football than just the coaching part of it. It's the psychology side of things, and really, I think to be a great leader and a great coach, you have to understand the players and the mentality of the players, and tap into that psychology and get them, find out what makes them tick and what makes them motivated. And yeah, I mean, he knows better than anybody. I mean, that's his. I think he wants to come over here as assistant coach. I'm not sure if he's that good of a mate. If I'm going to come on,
you can break the news to him on our show. It's fine.
I'll be able to do a couple of Zooms with the players, because he's top notch. He's unbelievable with the psychology part of things. Yeah, great guy.
And now get ready for this one, Eamon. hold on tight. I was really pressured to ask you this question. It comes from your mate Shane McFall, and he's asking you what really happened in Vegas in 2009.
Yeah, I'm excited.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I mean, and we'll leave it at that. I mean, all I'll say is Shane let himself down, and he knows it.
Yeah. But because here he's clapping back live, and he says, let's just say that Eamon is the worst wingman ever. Is that true?
Honestly, I mean, when you see guys, missing absolute sitters, open goals. I mean, he's like a few yards out, and they still managed to miss the target. I mean, that was him. I mean, I was the best. I was messy with my assists, and he just could not find the back of the net. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. We lost many a game over in Vegas because of him.
You were Messi, and he was a peak Alvaro Morata, we could say.
Yeah.
That's great. Love the question, but even more so, loved the answer. So, Rory, for our customary questions to footballers, I let you go.
So we everyone we've interviewed who has played, we ask the same questions, so kind of quick fire-ish. The best player you've ever played with?
Best player I ever played with was Ali Karimi. Probably the best, most talented. Ali Daei is obviously legend in terms of goals. Mm-hmm. The most talented player ever to come out of Iran was Ali Karimi. Absolute magician. Fantastic player.
Nice. And the best player you played against?
I mean, there's a couple of... One of the best players I played against, but it's probably because he was one of my favorite players, was Henrik Larsson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we played in the European with Drogheda United, and it was great. We both were wearing a number 17 jersey. We both scored. We drew 1-1, and there was a great headline in the Irish papers about, obviously because we're biased, it's Ireland, about, everybody went to look at a certain number 17, and it turned out to whatever it turned out to be. No, he was phenomenal. And then I guess one player that sticks out to me, and it wasn't a game, it was training, but when I went over to Everton, I remember playing in training. Wayne Rooney was there, and he just got he moved a couple of months later to Man United. But I remember he had scored that goal against Arsenal, and there was a lot of talk about him. And I remember in training thinking, you know what, I'm gonna mark this guy. I'm gonna see what he's about, and I couldn't get close to him. I mean, I'm like, not that it was nothing to do with like him being quicker than me in terms of physically. He was just mentally so much quicker than me, and every time I thought I was close to him, I'd look around and he's somewhere else. And I'm thinking, like, what the hell is this guy? He's like, what's going on? And I remember thinking, like, he's just so good. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was. He always looked like he was designed to play football, right? He was designed to play football. Okay, I'm going to ask the best stadium you played in, or your favorite stadium that you played in.
Best stadium I played in, favorite stadium I played in. I don't know. I mean, I really like the Azzurri, obviously, over in Iran, the national team stadium where Persepolis played. I love playing because, like, they were, the biggest, obviously the derby was 90,000, and then because the weather was so bad, it would have been more. And a month later, we played in my first Asian Champions League game against Al Shabab of Dubai, and that was 96,000 people. And I mean, to have 96,000 people in a stadium, was not many stadiums in the world can hold that. So that has to be my favorite. The most intimidating stadium, and again, I forgot about this. One of the best players I played against, though, the most intimidating stadium I ever played in. We played. It was actually, the winners go to the World Cup 2013 for the 2014 World Cup. We played Cameroon with the Libyan national team, and it was in Cameroon, and Cameroon hadn't lost a home game in 37 years. And I remember thinking, 37 years, that's impossible. What? I've never heard of any team do that. And I remember, like, the bus drops you off about a mile down the road, and you have to go through these, like all the home fans, like, going crazy, and you're like, is this even safe? And then the atmosphere is just electric, and Samuel Eto'o was the captain at the time. And,
wow.
Yeah, we lost 1-0, but that was the most intimidating atmosphere I ever played in.
Now, listeners, if I reacted to Arsenal before, Tommy has just reacted to Samuel Eto'o like an excited child. I'm not sure, but Tommy is an Inter fan, so Samuel Eto'o to him has just set him up.
Yeah,
no, big time. Actually, one of my favorite players of all time, I have to say, Samuel Eto'o.
Yeah, I love watching him play. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Perfect. And finally, I think I might know the answer already, but the best manager that you've played under?
Yeah, Stephen Kenny for sure. Again, and it's, and I don't say that lightly because there's so many other good managers I played in with maybe on paper may have better pedigrees, but no, he's the best manager, and I hope he goes on and proves how good he is in the international stage.
Yeah, me too. Wow, Eamon, that was fantastic. Thank you. That was really interesting. Tommy, do you have anything to say?
No, well, I mean, thank you so much, Eamon. We would like you, I mean, if you enjoyed this, it would be lovely to have you back once the season actually starts for the Northern Colorado hailstorm. And
cool.
It's been great to interview you. I loved your answer to your mate. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. He was very insistent on Instagram. He was like, no, ask him that. Don't worry, ask him. But thank you so much for your time, and good luck with all of your endeavors. And we'll talk again soon, I guess.
Perfect, lads. Cheers for having me on.
And after a fantastic showing last week, if I do say so myself, it is now Tommy's turn to upset the odds and maybe get more than 1 point. It is time for the 1 minute till kickoff quiz. Tommy, how are you feeling today? Confident?
Yeah, I don't know about this game anymore, guys. I'll be honest.
I
feel like
it's only been 2 games.
No, yeah, I'm losing 9-1 against Ruairi. This is my chance to kind of increase my score. Let's see how I'm feeling after our theme sound.
Okay, so Tommy, for our listeners, would you like to tell them what is your chosen subject today?
My chosen subject today is the Italian national team of football, of course, from 2002 all the way to 2021. I'm ready.
Good. So, are you ready for your questions?
I am ready. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
2 players share Italy's all-time Euros top scorers record. Name one of them.
It already starts like this, huh? Del Piero.
No. In Euro 2016, Italy had a massive 5 players who played abroad. Can you name one of them and the club they played for?
Pelé at Southampton.
Very good. Which team finished 3rd ahead of Italy in the World Cup 2010 on 2 points in the group stage?
I don't know. Next.
How many times since Euro 2000 have Italy won all 3 group games?
1.
No. Italy, of course, beat England on penalties in Euro 2020, but which previous tournament did you also beat England on penalties?
Euro 2012.
Very good. Which team have you faced most in the knockout stages from 2000 to 2020?
No, next.
Okay, and finally, which Italy manager has the lowest win percentage since the 2000s? Clue, it was his 2nd spell in charge.
Marcello Lippi.
Good. There we go.
Bad. Only 2 points.
Time.
Oh my God. So right now you're winning 9-3 and we're on even games because I scored only 2 points today. Take me through the correct answers, Rory. I beg you.
Okay, so the 2 players who share Italy's all-time Euro Championship top scorer award are Cassano and Balotelli, both on 3 goals. In Euro 2016, Italy had a massive 5 players who played abroad. Can you name them and the club they played for? You said Graziano Pelle from Southampton. Of course, you could have had Darmian from United, Ogbonna from West Ham, Motta from PSG, and Sirigu also from PSG. Question number 3. Which team finished 3rd ahead of Italy in 2010 on 2 points? It was New Zealand, Tommy. You finished below New Zealand.
Okay. No, I thought they would finish this was badly worded. I thought that they finished the World Cup third, not the group stage. But yeah, right. It's my English, but it's probably bad.
Number 4. How many times since Euro 2000 have Italy won all 3 group games? It's twice, Euro 2000 and Euro 2020. Number 5, Italy, of course, beat England on penalties in Euro 2020, but you also beat us on penalties in Euro 2012.
The Pirlo Panenka, baby. I remember that one.
With Joe Hart.
Well.
It ended Joe Hart's career, so thank you for that. Question number 6, which team have you faced most in the knockout stages from 2000 to 2020? It is Spain. You faced them 4 times.
Wow.
And the final question you did get right, which Italy manager has the lowest win percentage since the 2000s? It was his second spell. It was Marcello Lippi with 40.74%. Played 27, won 11, drawn 11, lost 5.
Wow, Rory, you come up with good questions. I feel like you're pretty good at this, especially not making me guess the correct answers. Once again, Rory is leading 9-3. But that's it with the episode. Rory, anything more to tell our listeners before I send them off with our customary quote?
Just thanks for listening. As always, guys, don't forget to like, comment, share, tell a friend, retweet, put us in your stories, everything that millennials do, and I will see you next week.
Remember to follow us on Instagram at Anglo-Italian Pod, on Twitter at Italian Anglo-Pod, but also to give a follow to our main sponsor, actually our only sponsor, Sport Clubs Maps. You can find them on Instagram and Twitter, but also you can go to their website, www.sportclubsmaps.co.uk. But now it's time for our ending of the show quote, and we're going to quote Junior Messias, the Brazilian, whom from Crotone has just signed with AC Milan. Now you have to think that this guy came to Italy just to try to make a living, and at first he was playing football for the company he was working for, and he was actually offloading refrigerators. Here we go with the quote. I didn't think I was good enough. I never thought I would get this far. However, I worked hard and made sacrifices year after year, season after season. Dreams do come true. You just have to believe in them. Thank you very much for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you next Friday.